The Ugly Duckling, illustrated by Jane Renard and Gerard, illustrated by Susan Spellman. Once there was a little farm with a pond full of geese and ducks. On a fine morning in May, a duck was sitting on her nestful of eggs, felt something start to move underneath her. Crack, crack, crack. Peep, peep. Her eggs were starting to hatch. She was very glad, because it seemed as though she had been sitting on a nest for a long, long time. One by one, her little ducks broke through her eggshells, each fluffier and softer than the one before it. Finally, the last egg began to crack open. It was a very big egg, and the duckling that came out of it was large and clumsy and a dirty gray color. He did not look at all like any of the other ducklings. Another duck thought, "How big and ugly this duckling is." But she loved him just the same. When the mother duck led her babies to the pond, the ugly duckling swam as well as the rest, but she didn't worry about him any longer. The next day, Mother Duck took her babies to the farmyard for the first time. The proud duck lined up her ducklings in a neat row, with the ugly duckling at the very end, and told them to quack properly and bow their heads to everyone they meet. When the duck family entered the farmyard where the plump chickens, geese, ducks, and geese were gathered, the other ducks were quite rude. "Look at that ugly fellow! Quack! He's not one of us," said one snowy white duck. A mean old goose even reached out and bit the ugly duck on the neck. "Leave him alone!" cried the mother duck, but the other birds continued to tease the poor duckling. Soon even his own brothers and sisters were calling him Ugly Duckling and wouldn't play with him. Days passed, and the duckling grew bigger and uglier. The teasing and bullying got worse and worse. Finally, the duckling decided to run far away. He wandered through overgrown fields, often frightening the little birds who lived there. "They think I'm ugly too," he sighed. On he went, until he came to a swamp where wild geese lived. Since he was too tired to go any farther, he stayed there for the night. The wild geese found him in the morning. "What kind of bird are you?" they asked. Before he could answer, some men came with their dogs and scared the geese away. The ugly duckling hid in the grass because he was too frightened to leave. As soon as he was sure the dogs were gone, the lonely little duckling set off again, looking for somewhere to live. At last he came to a crooked little hut, where an old woman lived with her cat and her prized hen. She took the duckling in, hoping he would grow fat. She thought he could sell him at market. The cat and the hen thought that they were wonderful creatures, and were very rude to the duckling. Besides, he was used to being outdoors, and although the hut was warm and dry, he longed to be swimming on the water and diving down among the weeds. So one fall day, he ran away to find a lake. Find one the ugly duckling did. He was happy on the lake, although none of the wild ducks there spoke to him. They thought he was too ugly to bar with. One day at sunset, he saw a flock of beautiful birds flying overhead. Their feathers were so white they glowed, and their necks were long and graceful. The sight of them made the ugly duckling cry, although he did not know why. Soon afterward, the wild ducks flew off. They knew that winter was coming. The duckling stayed on the lake as the weather grew colder and colder. It grew so cold one night that the duckling awoke to find his feet frozen in a sheet of ice. Luckily, a farmer found the duckling held there and broke the ice to free him. The kind farmer took the duck home with him, thinking the opera would make a fine pet for his children. When the farmer set the duckling down in his kitchen, the noisy children frightened the bird, and the duckling flew right into a pile of butter and spilled it. From there, he ran across a plate of butter and knocked over a bowl of flour. What a mess he made! The farmer's wife was angry with the ugly duckling and chased him right out the kitchen door. The frightened duckling didn't run very far because it was dark and cold outside. He knew the icy pond was not a safe place to spend the winter, so he found a safe hiding place, an empty barnyard, and made a nest for himself. The ugly duckling spent the whole winter nestled snug in his hiding place. He came out only to search for food. It was the longest, loneliest winter he could imagine. Spring came at last. The ugly duckling stretched his neck and tried to fly. His wings were now very strong. He landed safely and easily on this little lake. Just as the ugly duckling was enjoying his first swim of the spring, 3 snowy swans appeared from the grass along the shore. The duckling felt the same excitement he felt when he had first seen them flying overhead. He wanted to be near them so much that even though he was sure they would treat him cruelly, he swam toward them anyway. As he drew near, he bowed his head, ready for the name calling and biting he learned to expect from other birds. When he lowered his head, what do you think he saw? A fourth swan, the most beautiful of all, was looking back at him from the water. It was his own reflection. You see, over that long winter, the ugly duckling had grown up. He was not a duckling at all. He was a swan. As the other swans joined him, the happy bird promised himself that he would never forget the things he had learned as the ugly duckling, even though he would spend the rest of his life as a handsome swan. The end.